Welcome to Oryx Learning. Today's lesson is going to be on Unit 2, Equations in One Variable, Lesson 1, Solving Equations with Rational Coefficients. Sarah and John enjoy playing on the seesaw at the park. Since they both weigh about the same amount, they are able to balance the seesaw. Era joins the two children and gets on the seesaw with John, which makes the seesaw tilt and become out of balance. How can the children get back in balance with Era on the seesaw? To keep the seesaw in balance, what we do to one side of the seesaw, we must also do to the other side. So if Era weighs 25 kilograms, then another child of 25 kilograms must also be added to the other side of the seesaw to keep it in balance. In mathematics, to show that two statements are in balance, an equal sign is used. The equal sign states that the quantities being compared have the same value. To keep expressions equal or in balance, what is done to one side of the equation must be done to the other side as well. Solving equations means to find the value of the variable that keeps it in balance and makes the equation true. Inverse operations are used to solve for the unknown value. The inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of multiplication is division. In algebraic equations, letters are used to represent unknown values. These values are called variables. The numerical factor of a term with a variable is called a coefficient. For example, if you have the term 3x, x is your variable, and the 3 is the coefficient. Multiplicative inverses, also known as reciprocals. So two numbers with a product of 1, like 3 over 2 times 2 over 3, which equals 1, are multiplicative inverses, also known as reciprocals. Another example would be 1 over 5 and 5 over 1, because 1 over 5 times 5 over 1 equals 1. In a third example, 5/4 and 4/5 would be multiplicative inverses or reciprocals, because their product, 5/4 times 4/5, is equal to 1. Identify the coefficient and its multiplicative inverse. 2x equals -8. So the coefficient is 2, the number in front of the x. The multiplicative inverse, 2 over 1 times 1 over 2 would equal 1. So 1 over 2 would be the multiplicative inverse. Solve for x, write the answer as a whole number or a fraction in simplest form. So here we have 12x equals -60. The 12 is being multiplied by the x. We have to use the inverse function to isolate it. The inverse function of multiplication is division, so we'll divide both sides of the equation by 12 to keep it in balance. 12 divided by 12 is just 1, that cancels out. And -60 divided by 12 is -5, so 1x equals -5, or just x equals -5. Solve for t. We have the equation 2/3 t equals 1/4. So if we look, the 2/3 is being multiplied by the t. In order to isolate the t, we can use the inverse, or the multiplicative inverse, which would be 3 over 2. So we can multiply each side by 3 over 2, making sure to keep it in balance. 3 over 2 times 2 over 3 is just 1. And 1/4 times 3 over 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So that would be 3 over 8. So we have 1t equals 3 over 8, or just t equals 3/8. Solve the equation for d. So 0.8d equals 5.6. Again, the 0.8 is being multiplied by the d. So the multiplicative inverse would be to divide. So we'll divide both sides of the equation by 0.8. 0.8 divided by 0.8 is just 1. and 5.6 divided by 0.8. We show here on the left long division, 56 divided by 8 would just give us 7, so 5.6 divided by 0.8 would also be 7. So if 1D equals 7, then D equals 7. All right, your mother gave you $14 to buy rice at the market. If the rice cost $1.75 per 1 kilogram, how much rice can you buy? So let's let X equal the number of kilograms of rice you can buy. So then we'll say the cost per kilogram times the number of kilograms bought will equal the total amount of money that we spend. The cost per kilogram is $1.75. The total amount of money we spend is 14, and the number of kilograms we bought is unknown, so we'll use that variable X that we assign in the first statement. The $1.75 is being multiplied by the X, so the inverse would be to divide, the inverse operation. So divide both sides of the equation by 175. 175 divided by 175 is 1, so 1x equals 14 divided by 175, which is 8. So 8 kilograms of rice can be bought with $14 at the market. Some key ideas from the lesson. When solving a one-step equation with a fraction as the coefficient, multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So if you have a over b times x equals c, we can divide by a over b, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal b over a. So b over a times a over bx equals b over a times c. So x would just equal b over a times c. When solving a one-step equation with a decimal as a coefficient, divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient and simplify the solution. So if we have a times x equals c, we can divide both sides by a to keep the equation in balance. A over a is simply 1, so 1x equals c over a. That is our lesson for lesson 1. Please join us next time.